Chapter 1. October 2006, Eastern Europe. Leine checked her watch as she waited for the target to emerge from the concrete block building, practical as only Soviet-style architecture could be. Nevertheless, the crumbling facade gave the impression of faded power, like a once-famous tenor, now down on his luck and sucking on throat lozenges in order to save his voice. She'd wait 5 minutes longer and then leave if Igor Glashenko didn't show. There was no sense freezing her ass if Quarry decided to take his time with his mistress. Besides, she wasn't completely on board with Eric's instructions. There were other, less intrusive ways to fulfill the contract, and it made her wonder why her boss had chosen her for the job. The cool air was damp from the recent squall that had just blown through the ancient city. The resultant mist hiding a few of the cars below her, as though an unseen hand had intentionally obscured the block for effect. She glanced through the rifle sight once more and made a minor correction. Ah, the glamorous life of a jet-setting assassin. Leine inhaled and released her breath slowly, watching the condensation evaporate in the air before her. Just then, the front door to the building across the street opened. Wearing an expensive leather coat, a heavy-set bear of a man emerged, flanked by 2 armed gunmen. After a brief reconnaissance of the block, they headed for a black SUV parked at the curb. The target was smiling. Clearly, he'd had a good session with his mistress. Igor Glashenko will die a happy man today. "Target in sight," she said into her mic, her voice low. "Copy that," came the reply. Leine dropped her head, the sniper rifle snug against her shoulder, and sighted in for the shot. A woman wearing a long skirt with her shirt unbuttoned to her navel appeared in the doorway, waving what looked like a silk cravat. The target turned and smiled. Laine's finger rested lightly on the trigger as she tracked Glashenko through the scope. "Damn it," she muttered. "Problem?" her handler, Lou, asked. "The mistress. I'm going to wait to take the shot. The fewer witnesses, the better." "Your call," Lou answered. Glashenko's grin could only be described as licentious as he grabbed the woman around the waist with one arm and pawed at her breasts with his free hand. The woman's giggles were loud enough to reach Laine's ears. "Come on already. Go back inside, but leave Glashenko." She'd been tempted to call off the job. Nothing had felt right from the start. From Eric's unusual request that she set up on a rooftop across the street from where the Russian's mistress lived, Leine preferred to work in a less conventional manner to keep the target's security off guard, to the directive to use a rifle to take Glashenko out. Normally, weapons were the operative's choice. Glashenko's security detail, 2 tall, muscle-bound men wearing tailored black suits and carrying machine guns, looked on with wide grins. The driver's door of the SUV opened and a man wearing expensive-looking aviator glasses emerged, his annoyance apparent by his deep frown. He gestured to one of Glashenko's security guards, who nudged the other, nodding toward the 2 lovebirds. While the guard attempted to speed their farewell, the driver turned and scanned the rooftops. He appeared to hesitate near the spot Leine had set up, and she froze. She was certain he couldn't see her, but the earlier unease she'd been feeling had her spooked. He cocked his head to the side like a golden retriever being told something it didn't understand, then raised his hand and said something into his sleeve. A second later, he started toward the front of the building below her. She keyed the mic, sending a signal to both Lou and Carlos that she needed a diversion, and quickly scanned the neighboring rooftops again. As though on cue, Carlos rounded the corner, head down and bouncing along with his iPod, earbud wires sprouting like anemic spaghetti from his ears. Immediately on point, Glashenko's men reached for their weapons. Mid-street, the driver turned to assess the intruder. As Carlos came closer, the guard stepped in front of him, barring his way. Carlos looked up, surprise on his face, working the I-didn't-see-you angle. One of Glashenko's men pushed him and barked an order. The driver said something into his sleeve again, then turned and headed toward the group on the sidewalk. Leine slid backward, taking the rifle with her. When she was far enough away that she could stand and not be seen from the street, she closed the lens covers on the scope, collapsed the rifle's bipod, and broke down the gun so it would fit in her duffel bag. She then quietly opened the door to the stairwell and descended. When she reached the metal door leading outside, she removed her ear mic and paused to listen. Nothing. She dropped the mic into her bag and opened the door to check for passers-by. Not seeing anyone, she stepped into the alley and stopped to shift the duffel bag onto her shoulder. The round hit the wall centimeters from her head. Bits of concrete sprayed her cheek. Leine dove inside the building as another bullet slammed into the metal door. Sniper. She scanned the area, searching for the best exit. A door banged open at the front of the building, accompanied by the sound of footsteps pounding towards her. Glashenko's men. Heart racing, she scrambled to her feet and sprinted for the stairs, taking 2 at a time. At the first landing, she paused to catch her breath. 4 corridors radiated outward from the central staircase, each hallway consisting of a dozen or more apartments. She continued up the staircase and veered onto floor 5, taking the easternmost hallway, far from the sniper's position. Several recessed doors with apartment numbers stood on either side of the corridor. 2 of the ceiling lights had burned out, leaving the area in partial shadow. Cardboard covered a window at the end of the passage, a fast fix-it job to keep out the cold. Footsteps echoed up the staircase as her assailants closed in. Leine slid the pistol from her holster, screwed on the suppressor, and shot out the remaining lights, plunging the hall into darkness. Letting the duffel bag fall to the floor, she crossed the now dark hall, moving to a doorway several apartments closer to the window. She dropped to one knee in a modified crouch and pulled up the hood of her jacket. The black material matched her clothes, giving her a semblance of camouflage. The footsteps stopped at her floor, followed by silence. Leine breathed in slowly and let it out, calming the adrenaline dump. She aimed the gun. Steady. Whispers drifted toward her as a shadow fell across the floor near the entrance to the hall, then slid from view. 2 gunmen ghosted up the steps, heading for the next level. Seconds later, there was a pop, and the 5th floor landing grew dark. Couldn't be the sniper. Not if he'd set up on an opposing roof. There hadn't been enough time, and she doubted it was Glashenko's driver. Someone had to stay back and protect the Russian. A 3rd gunman? Leine waited. A minute passed, and then another. Then 2 more. Still, she waited, motionless, listening. She lost track of time. There. The 3rd gunman shifted position. The sound was barely a whisper. Right side, near the hallway entrance. It wouldn't be long. Minutes